What happens when one of the most talked about actors in Hollywood walks onto a daytime talk show expecting a conversation about his latest film, and instead finds himself facing questions that cut much deeper than the script he came prepared to promote? What happens when the applause fades, the smiles tighten, and a routine interview slowly shifts into something far more personal? Make sure to subscribe to Echo Stars and like and comment for more talk show coverage. The cameras roll. The audience is already on its feet as Johnny Depp walks out, dressed simply in a dark blazer, layered necklaces, tinted glasses. He gives a small wave, a half smile. It's polite, controlled. Whoopi Goldberg stands to greet him with a hug. Whoopi, well, look at you. It's been a minute. Johnny, it has. Thank you for having me. They sit. The rest of the panel exchanges greetings, some warm, some measured. The applause dies down. Whoopi, so, you've got this new project coming out. First major studio release in a while. How does it feel to be back in that space? Johnny, it feels normal. Which is nice. I missed normal. Light laughter from the audience. One of the co-hosts leans in. CO host 1. A lot of people are calling this a comeback. Do you see it that way? Johnny pauses just a fraction too long. Johnny, I see it as work. I've always worked. Maybe not always publicly. A few audience members clap softly. Whoopi, well, let's talk about the film first. It's a thriller, right? You play, Johnny, a journalist who uncovers something he probably shouldn't. Whoopi, art imitating life? She says with a half smile. The audience reacts, a mix of chuckles and murmurs. Johnny, I think life imitates chaos more than art does. There's a slight shift at the table. The energy changes, but subtly. CO host 2. You know, Johnny, we can't ignore that for a lot of viewers. When they hear your name, they still think about the trial. They think about the headlines. How do you move forward when that's still attached? The audience grows quiet. Johnny, by living. By waking up. By working. By being a father. Whoopi nods slowly. Whoopi, fair enough. But you also understand why people still have strong feelings. Some felt vindicated by the verdict. Others felt it set things back. Johnny, strong feelings are part of being human. I don't begrudge anyone for feeling. CO host 1. But do you take responsibility for your role in that situation? Because a lot of young people watched that trial like it was reality TV. There's a slight tightening around Johnny's jaw. Johnny, it wasn't reality TV to me. A few reactions from the audience. Whoopi, let's keep it respectful. We're having a conversation. CO host 1. Of course. I'm just saying, when something becomes that public, it stops being private. Johnny, it stopped being private long before the trial. Silence for a beat. Whoopi, was there ever a moment where you thought, I shouldn't fight this publicly? Johnny, no, the answer is immediate. Firm. CO host 2. Not even once? Johnny, no. Because sometimes if you don't speak, the silence becomes the story. A ripple of applause breaks out. Whoopi raises her hand slightly to calm the audience. Whoopi, okay. Let's not turn this into a rally. We're talking. Johnny leans back slightly, but his posture is alert now. CO host 3. Some critics say powerful men always find a way to land on their feet, that the system protects them. The temperature shifts again. Johnny, powerful men? I've never felt particularly powerful. I've felt scrutinized. CO host 3. But you won. Johnny, I defended myself. CO host 1. There's a difference? Johnny, to me? Yes. The audience splits, a few claps, a few murmurs. Whoopi looks between them. Whoopi, I think what she's asking is, do you see how the optics look? A beloved actor, a messy relationship, public sympathy shifting. Johnny, optics aren't truth. Whoopi, sometimes they shape it. Johnny's expression hardens slightly. Johnny, they shape perception. Not truth. There's tension now. Not shouting, just tight, controlled energy. CO host 2. When young men watch this and think, see? Speak up and you'll be vindicated. Is that the message? Johnny, the message should be tell the truth. CO host 1. But whose truth? A small gasp from somewhere in the audience. Johnny looks directly at her. Johnny, the actual one. A beat. Whoopi interjects quickly. Whoopi, okay. Let's slow this down. Nobody's calling you a liar here. Johnny, it sounds like it. Whoopi, no. We're asking hard questions. That's our job. Johnny, and I'm answering. The audience can feel it now. This isn't promotional fluff anymore. CO host 3. Do you feel the media treated you unfairly? Johnny lets out a quiet laugh. Johnny, do you want the honest answer? Whoopi, we usually do. Johnny, yes. A mix of applause and scattered groans. CO host 2. Even when evidence came out that didn't favor you? Johnny, every story has ugly pieces. That doesn't mean the whole story is ugly. Whoopi studies him carefully. Whoopi, I defended you publicly at one point because I said we don't know everything. I still believe that, but I also believe accountability matters. Johnny nods. Johnny, it does. Whoopi, so what are you accountable for? There it is. The question that shifts everything. The audience goes completely silent. Johnny doesn't answer right away. He folds his hands together. Johnny, I'm accountable for staying too long in something unhealthy. I'm accountable for not walking away sooner. I'm accountable for my temper at times. I'm not accountable for things I did not do. A long pause. A few claps begin. They grow louder. CO host 1. But people still feel hurt by the way that trial played out. Johnny, I feel hurt by it too. Whoopi, this is where it gets complicated. Because hurt exists on both sides. Johnny, it does. CO host 3. Do you think you were ever part of the problem? Johnny exhales. Johnny, in any failed relationship, both people are part of the problem. But not always in the same ways. The audience reacts, that line lands. Whoopi leans forward. Whoopi, so if she were sitting here right now, what would you say? The air tightens. Johnny, I'd say I hope you find peace. There's a murmur, some impressed, some skeptical. CO host 2, that's it? Johnny, what else would you like me to say? The question hangs there. Whoopi holds his gaze. Whoopi, some people think you've never truly addressed the damage. Johnny, damage goes both ways. Whoopi, but you have a bigger platform. Johnny, that doesn't make me the bigger villain. The audience reacts loudly now, applause, scattered cheers, a few audible disagreements. Whoopi raises her voice slightly over the noise. Whoopi, all right, let's keep this civil. Johnny adjusts in his seat. He's no longer relaxed. He's focused. The promotional segment has completely dissolved. CO host 1. Are you saying you feel misunderstood? Johnny, I'm saying I was judged before anyone heard me. CO host 3. And now? Johnny, now I'm here. A beat. The tension hasn't exploded yet, but it's building. The smiles are gone. The questions are sharper. Johnny's answers are shorter. And the audience can feel that something bigger is coming. There's a pause that lingers just a little too long for daytime television. You can feel the producers probably talking in someone's earpiece, but at the table, no one moves. Whoopi, all right. We're here. Let's keep talking. She folds her hands on the table, steady measured. Whoopi. Johnny, when you say you were judged before anyone heard you, I think some people would argue that you had a very loud platform to be heard. Johnny, eventually. CO host 2. You've been famous for decades. Johnny, fame isn't a courtroom. A few audience members clap softly. CO host 1. No, but it's influence. And influence matters. Johnny, it does. Which is why accusations matter too. The audience goes quiet again. Whoopi, let me ask you something directly. Do you think the cultural moment we're in, where people are trying to believe survivors more, worked against you? Johnny pauses. He takes off his tinted glasses and sets them on the table. It's the first real shift in body language since he sat down. Johnny, I think the cultural moment we're in is important. CO host 3. But, Johnny, but I don't think it should erase due process. There's a reaction, louder this time. Applause from one side of the audience. A few audible sighs from another. Whoopi raises her hand again. Whoopi, okay. We're not doing audience debates today. CO host 2. Do you think people rush to pick sides? Johnny, yes. CO host 1. Including us? The question lands sharply. Johnny looks at her directly. Johnny, some commentary felt decided. Whoopi, you know I said publicly that I didn't know everything. That I wasn't going to condemn someone without all the facts. Johnny nods. I remember. CO host 3. But other people on this panel had different views. And we're allowed to. Johnny, of course. CO host 3. So when you say commentary felt decided, it sounds like you're accusing people of bias. Johnny, is that a crime? A ripple moves through the audience. CO host 1. No, but it's serious. Johnny. So is being labeled something you're not. The tension sharpens. It's not shouting. It's controlled, but the edges are visible. Whoopi. Let's not turn this into us versus you. Johnny. I didn't come here for that. CO host 2. Then what did you come for? Johnny. To talk about my work. To move forward. CO host 1. But you knew this would come up. Johnny. I did. CO host 1. So why does it feel like you're bristling? The audience murmurs. That word, bristling, hangs in the air. Johnny. Because there's a difference between questions and conclusions. Whoopi leans forward slightly. Whoopi. Are we concluding something? Johnny. It feels like it. CO host 3. Or maybe you're uncomfortable being challenged. There's a sharp inhale from somewhere in the crowd. Johnny doesn't answer immediately. He studies the table for a moment. Johnny. I've been challenged in courtrooms. I can handle a talk show. Whoopi. Then handle it. That line lands harder than expected. Even Whoopi seems to realize it as soon as it leaves her mouth. A low "oh" comes from the audience. Whoopi quickly adds, I mean that respectfully. Johnny. I am handling it. CO host 2. You seem defensive. Johnny. You seem determined. A few claps. A few groans. Whoopi. Okay. Let's take a breath. She turns slightly toward the audience. Whoopi. We can disagree without it becoming a showdown. CO host 1. Nobody's trying to create a showdown. Johnny. It feels like one. CO host 3. Because we're not just praising you? Johnny. No. Because it feels like the verdict wasn't enough for some people. There it is. The room shifts again. CO host 2. A legal verdict and public opinion are two different things. Johnny. They shouldn't contradict truth. CO host 2. Truth is complicated. Johnny. Facts aren't. The audience claps, louder now. Whoopi. Let's be clear. This show talks about culture. And your case became culture. Johnny. Against my will. CO host 1. But you chose to televise it. Johnny. I chose to defend myself. CO host 3. On the biggest stage possible. Johnny. Because it was already on the biggest stage possible. Silence. Whoopi studies him carefully. Whoopi. Do you think there's any part of this where you could say, I understand why some women felt disappointed? Johnny doesn't dodge this one. Johnny. I understand emotion. I understand fear. I understand anger. What I don't understand is being told to accept something untrue to make other people comfortable. The audience reacts strongly, applause, a few standing claps. Whoopi gestures for them to sit. CO host 2. No one's asking you to accept something untrue. Johnny. Then what is being asked? CO host 1. Empathy. Johnny. For whom? CO host 1. For people who feel the system failed them. Johnny. And what about empathy for people falsely accused? A loud wave of applause crashes through the studio. Whoopi's expression tightens. She waits for the noise to settle. Whoopi. Empathy shouldn't be selective. Johnny. Exactly. That moment hits. There's a stillness now, not explosive but charged. CO host 3. But statistically, Whoopi interrupts. Let's not get into statistics. This is about his experience. CO host 3. But context matters. Johnny. Context matters. So does fairness. Whoopi looks at him carefully. Whoopi. Do you feel this panel has been unfair? Johnny hesitates. It's the first visible hesitation in a while. Johnny. I think some questions come with a presumption. CO host 1. That you might not be completely innocent? Johnny. That I must represent something bigger than myself. CO host 2. You do. Whether you like it or not. Johnny. That's a heavy thing to put on anyone. The audience quiets again. Whoopi. You are a symbol now. For some people, of vindication. For others, of disappointment. That's not something you can just shrug off. Johnny. I'm not trying to shrug it off. I'm trying to live my life. CO host 3. Publicly. Johnny. Because it's always been public. Whoopi leans back thinking. Whoopi. Let me ask you something that isn't about the trial. Have you changed? The question shifts the tone slightly. Johnny. Yes. CO host 2. How? Johnny. I'm quieter. I'm more selective. I don't assume people know me just because they've seen me. Whoopi. And do you assume we don't? There's that edge again. Johnny. I assume this is television. A small laugh breaks out, nervous but real. CO host 1. Are you saying we're performing? Johnny, aren't we? The audience reacts. Louder laughter now, some clapping. Whoopi smiles slightly. Fair point. But the tension hasn't disappeared. It's simmering. CO host 3. I still feel like you're sidestepping the broader cultural impact. Johnny. Because I'm not here to be a cultural weapon. The audience gasps softly. Whoopi. Nobody's calling you a weapon. Johnny. It feels like I'm being positioned as one. CO host 2. Or maybe you're uncomfortable with what you represent. Johnny looks directly at her. Johnny. What do I represent? Silence. The question hangs there. Heavy. Direct. No one answers immediately. And for the first time since he walked out, Johnny isn't leaning back. He's leaning forward. The conversation is no longer about a film. It's no longer about headlines. It's about identity, narrative, and who gets to define both. And the panel realizes this is no longer just an interview. It's a standoff that's slowly, steadily escalating. There's a silence after Johnny asks, "What do I represent?" It's not dramatic. It's uncomfortable. The kind of pause that doesn't usually make it to air without someone jumping in to smooth it over. Whoopi finally speaks. Whoopi, you represent a lot of things to different people. Johnny, such as? CO host 3 shifts in her seat. CO host 3. To some, you represent a man who fought back against accusations and won. To others, you represent how difficult it still is for women to come forward without being torn apart publicly. A few members of the audience clap. Others stay quiet. Johnny nods slowly. Johnny, I understand that perception. CO host 1. But perception matters. Johnny, it does. But perception isn't always accurate. CO host 2. That can go both ways. Johnny, exactly. Whoopi raises her hand slightly, trying to bring the temperature down. Whoopi, okay, let's ground this. No one here is saying you didn't have the right to defend yourself. But when something becomes this big, it becomes bigger than the two people involved. Johnny, it shouldn't. Whoopi, but it does. Johnny, because we allow it to. There's a murmur in the audience. The back and forth is sharper now, faster. CO host 3. Are you saying the public shouldn't have cared? Johnny, I'm saying the public shouldn't have turned it into entertainment. That line lands hard. A wave of applause breaks out, louder than before. Whoopi looks toward the audience. All right, we hear you. CO host 1. But you also gave interviews. You participated in documentaries. You told your story. Johnny. After years of being silent. CO host 1. And now you're upset people still want to talk about it? Johnny. I'm not upset. I'm tired. The word tired shifts the energy slightly. It's not combative. It's human. Whoopi softens her tone. Whoopi, tired of what? Johnny. Of being reduced to one chapter of my life. The audience claps again. Not explosive this time, but steady. CO host 2. But that chapter was public and painful. And some people feel the way it ended sent a message. Johnny, what message? CO host 2. That if you're powerful enough, you can rewrite the narrative. Johnny's expression tightens. Johnny, I didn't rewrite anything. I told my side. CO host 3. With a legal team, PR team, global platform, Whoopi cuts in. Hold on. Johnny. And she didn't have a platform? CO host 3. Not the same one. Johnny. She wrote an op-ed in a major newspaper. The audience reacts, some applause, some murmurs. Whoopi. Let's not relitigate. Johnny. I'm not. I'm responding. CO host 1. But can you at least acknowledge that for some women watching, it felt like a warning? Johnny. A warning against what? False accusations. Gasps ripple across the studio. Whoopi immediately steps in. Whoopi, careful. Johnny. No, seriously. Against what? CO host 2. Against speaking up and being dragged through the mud. Johnny. I was dragged too. CO host 2. You're still working. Johnny. After losing work. CO host 3. But you're back. Johnny. Because I didn't disappear. There's a sharp edge in that sentence. The audience feels it. Whoopi leans forward. Whoopi. Let me ask you something personal. Do you regret how public it became? Johnny thinks. It's the longest pause of the segment. Johnny. I regret that it became a spectacle. CO host 1. But you requested cameras. Johnny. Transparency. CO host 1. Or strategy? A low murmur rolls through the crowd. Johnny leans forward now, elbows lightly on the table. Johnny, you think I wanted my worst moments streamed globally? CO host 1. I think you wanted to win. Johnny, I wanted the truth documented. CO host 3. Truth according to you. Johnny, truth according to evidence. Whoopi raises her voice slightly. Whoopi, okay, let's slow down. We're talking over each other. The tension is visible now. Not explosive, but undeniable. CO host 2. Johnny, do you understand why this still feels raw for people? Johnny, of course it does. It's raw for me too. CO host 2. But you're not the only one who experienced pain. Johnny, I never said I was. CO host 3. Then why does it sound like you're dismissing the broader impact? Johnny exhales, visibly frustrated now. Johnny, because I'm being asked to carry the weight of every cultural debate about gender and power. I'm one person. The audience breaks into applause again, louder, sustained. Whoopi lets it play for a few seconds before gesturing for quiet. Whoopi, nobody's asking you to carry everything. But you walked into this moment knowing it exists. Johnny, and I walked in ready to answer questions. Not to be assigned symbolism. CO host 1. You don't get to choose that. Johnny, neither do you. The room goes still. That line hits harder than anything before it. Whoopi looks at him carefully. Whoopi, what do you mean by that? Johnny, I mean no one at this table gets to decide what I represent to millions of strangers. CO host 3. We're discussing it. Johnny, it feels like defining it. CO host 2. That's your interpretation. Johnny, exactly. There's a beat of silence. Then a few claps start in the back of the audience, spreading forward. Whoopi sits back slightly, studying him. Whoopi, are you saying we're being unfair right now? Johnny doesn't hesitate this time. Johnny, I'm saying the question stopped being about understanding and started being about positioning. The audience reacts audibly, a mix of hum and scattered applause. CO host 1. Positioning you as what? Johnny, as a problem. A collective inhale moves through the studio. Whoopi shakes her head. Whoopi, nobody called you a problem. Johnny, not directly. CO host 3. This is what accountability conversations feel like. Johnny, accountability for what? Silence again. CO host 2. For being part of something that had consequences. Johnny, every relationship has consequences. CO host 2. This one had cultural consequences. Johnny, so did the coverage. The audience claps loudly at that. Whoopi holds up both hands now. Whoopi, okay, let's reset. Because this is starting to feel like we're talking in circles. Johnny, I agree. Whoopi, so here's a simple question. Right now, sitting here, do you believe you did anything wrong in that relationship? The studio goes dead quiet. Johnny looks at her steadily. Johnny, I believe I stayed when I shouldn't have. I believe I argued when I should have walked away. I believe I was imperfect. Whoopi, but not abusive. Johnny, no, there's no hesitation. A strong wave of applause fills the room. CO host 3 looks unconvinced. CO host 3. And if someone watching doesn't believe you? Johnny, they're allowed not to. Whoopi, and that doesn't bother you? Johnny, it used to. Whoopi, and now? Johnny sits back slightly. Johnny, now I don't need everyone to believe me. That line changes something. It's not combative. It's steady. The tension doesn't disappear, but it shifts. The audience senses it too. The volume drops. The energy becomes more focused, less reactive. Whoopi nods slowly. Whoopi, that might be the most honest thing you've said today. Johnny gives a small, tired smile. But even as the temperature lowers slightly, there's a feeling in the room that something decisive is about to happen. One final exchange that will either calm everything down or push it over the edge. The room is quieter now, but it's not relaxed. It's the kind of quiet that happens when everyone knows they're at the edge of something. Whoopi folds her hands again, slower this time. Whoopi, Johnny, I'm going to ask you one last thing before we wrap this up. Not about the verdict. Not about the headlines. About you. Do you feel understood? The question isn't sharp. It's steady. Johnny thinks about it. Johnny, by some people. Not by others. And I've made peace with that. CO host 1. But you clearly still feel strongly about how this is discussed. Johnny, because words matter. CO host 3. So do impacts. Johnny, agreed. Whoopi nods slowly. Okay, so here's where I land. I don't think anyone here is trying to define you as a villain. But when something becomes a symbol in culture, it's going to be debated. That's not personal. That's public life. Johnny listens without interrupting. Whoopi continues. And sometimes being a public figure means sitting in discomfort. Johnny, I've been sitting in it for years. A few soft claps from the audience. CO host 2. Then maybe today isn't about attacking you. Maybe it's about acknowledging that this story affected people beyond you. Johnny, I've never denied that. CO host 3. But you push back every time it's framed in a way you don't like. Johnny looks directly at her. Johnny, because I won't accept framing that suggests guilt where there isn't any. There's a murmur in the audience again. Not explosive, divided. Whoopi raises her voice slightly. Whoopi, let's be clear. No one here declared you guilty of anything. Johnny, not with that word. The tension rises one last time. Whoopi leans forward, her tone firm but controlled. Whoopi, then say it plainly. What do you think we're implying? Johnny doesn't look away. Johnny, that I represent something harmful. The audience reacts, louder now, mixed applause and disagreement. CO host 1. We're saying conversations about power and gender are complicated. Johnny, they are. CO host 1. And your case became part of that. Johnny, without my consent. CO host 2. Public trials don't ask consent. Johnny, neither do public opinions. That line lands hard. A strong wave of applause fills the studio. Even some audience members who had been quiet earlier start clapping. Whoopi lets it play out for a moment. Whoopi, all right. She turns back to him. Whoopi, I'll say this. You showed up. You answered. You didn't walk away from the questions. There's a subtle emphasis there. Johnny gives a small nod. Johnny, I don't walk away. It's calm, controlled. And that's the moment that shifts everything. CO host 3 softens slightly. CO host 3. Then maybe the takeaway is this: people are still processing. On all sides. Johnny, processing is healthy. CO host 2. Debating is healthy. Johnny, as long as it's honest. Whoopi looks at him for a long second, then leans back. Whoopi, well, that's what we try to do here. There's a small laugh from the audience, not mocking, just easing tension. Whoopi continues. We ask tough questions. Sometimes they land well. Sometimes they don't. But we ask them. Johnny, and I answer. A beat. Whoopi, you did. She turns to the camera. Whoopi, Johnny Depp, everybody. The applause comes, louder than it has been in the last few minutes. Some people stand. Others remain seated. It's not unanimous, but it's strong. Johnny stands, shakes hands with the panel. The handshake with Whoopi is firm. They exchange a few quiet words off mic. He puts his glasses back on. As he walks off, the camera stays on the panel. CO host 1 exhales audibly. That was intense. CO host 2. It was honest. CO host 3. It was complicated. Whoopi nods. That's live television. The audience laughs lightly. Whoopi, we're going to take a quick break. The music plays. The cameras fade out. But the conversation doesn't end there. Within minutes of the segment airing, clips begin circulating online. Short videos of the moment Johnny said, "You don't get to choose that." Another clip of Whoopi saying, "Then handle it." Another of Johnny stating firmly, "I won't accept framing that suggests guilt where there isn't any." Social media splits almost instantly. Some users praise him for staying composed under pressure. They call it calm, measured, direct. Others say the panel asked fair questions, and that discomfort isn't persecution. Hashtags start trending. Debates spark in comment sections. Some call it a face-off. Others call it a necessary conversation. Entertainment blogs post headlines within the hour. Tense exchange on daytime. TV. Johnny pushes back. Panel challenges Depp. By the afternoon, reaction videos appear across YouTube. Body language experts weigh in. Legal commentators resurface arguments. Cultural critics dissect the symbolism. Backstage, according to staff, the atmosphere was quieter than usual. No shouting. No dramatic exits. Just a serious conversation that carried weight. Johnny reportedly thanked the crew before leaving. The panel stayed in their dressing rooms longer than normal, reviewing parts of the exchange. The next day, during the show's opening segment, Whoopi briefly addresses it. Whoopi, yesterday's conversation sparked a lot of reaction. That's what happens when topics matter. We stand by asking questions. She doesn't apologize. She doesn't escalate. She moves forward. Johnny, for his part, doesn't post anything directly about it. But sources close to him tell outlets he felt he said what he needed to say. And that's where this story really lives, not in shouting, not in someone storming off stage, but in a controlled public disagreement that played out in real time. No one was silenced in the way people expected. Instead, the silence came in moments, when the questions hit hard, when the answers landed, when the audience didn't know whether to clap or think. It wasn't explosive. It was tense. It was layered. It was live. And now we want to know what you think. Did Johnny handle the questions fairly? Did the panel push too hard, or not hard enough? Was this accountability, or was it framing? Share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to Echo Stars for more real talk show stories.